1000. Now, students at the University of Oxford have demanded that the feminist academic Kathleen Stock be no platform from its debating society after she was accused of transphobia. The former philosophy lecturer, of course, was famously hounded out of the University of Sussex in October 2021 after being targeted by activists who disagreed with her views on gender identity. Oxford's LGBTQ+ society made the demand after Dr. Stock was invited to speak at their union next month. Student activists said they were dismayed and appalled by the decision to invite her, accusing the union of allowing her to stoke fear against trans people. But Kathleen Stock hit back at the LGBTQ+ society, calling its statement utterly ridiculous and probably defamatory. Should people like this be no platform? Let's speak to Frida Wallace, host of the Gender Nebulous podcast. Frida is a trans woman. And Stephanie Davies-Arai, who is the founder and director of Transgender Trend. Good afternoon to you both. Frida, first of all, you're always interesting on social media. Your podcast does very well. I have you down as somebody who's a supporter of freedom of speech. So what's wrong with Dr. Stock pitching up over there at Oxford? And we just lost Frida at that moment. Let's go to Stephanie in the meantime. Stephanie, not the first time we've seen people no platformed in this respect. Give us your response to this latest one.
We're a bit tired of it, aren't we? I thought the time of no debate was over. We're getting really tired of hearing people called transphobic. Kathleen Stock is one of the most measured and protective of all people's rights and expresses that, out of people that I know in this debate. So to no platform Kathleen Stock is really unbelievable now. I think students should get over this. Students should be able to listen to somebody with a different opinion to them, which is all this is. Different beliefs, different opinions, and maybe learn something and be there and argue with her. If you disagree with her, argue with her. That's what being a student is about. But it seems that if any woman in particular, men as well, but mostly women, have views that a woman is an adult human female, and that if members of the male sex are called women, then that causes certain issues for women, and affects women's rights, then that's not an acceptable opinion, and those women are bigots and transphobes. It's a difference of opinion.
And that's where we're at. We have Frida back with us. I mean, that is the root, I suppose, Frida, of the problem here, isn't it? Is, if you can't have a difference of opinion in a university debating society, it's where, life is all about some uncomfortable realities or uncomfortable opinions, even if we disagree with them.
Yeah, I don't want Kathleen Stock to be deplatformed, but what I'm interested in, we're talking about her now, but she's not here, isn't she? She's not here. She hasn't come to this debate with us. And Kathleen Stock is not somebody that is deplatformed. She's very well publicised. She released a book called Material Girls that was very well publicised, which basically is 8 chapters that details an argument about trans inclusion. It's not anything else. And I've looked into this quite in detail. And what I would say to Kathleen Stock is, just today on Talk Radio, I've counted the word trans mentioned 12 times. It's only 2:00. So I can come on here as a trans person, but we're very, very, very rarely represented. Whereas Kathleen Stock, you could Google her, and she's been on nearly every popular TV program and podcast. She's not silenced in any way, shape, or form.
She's not, in the sense you're right, she's written a book, but that's not necessarily what this means, Frida, is it? In this respect, those at the society in Oxford have asked for her to be deplatformed.
But she was never deplatformed. You said in the beginning of this that trans activists hounded her out of her job. That didn't happen. She chose to leave because other academics wrote to the university, over 500 of them in actual fact, and said, we don't actually think there's any value in what Kathleen Stock is saying here. Now, she didn't have to leave that job.
That's a kind of 500 people are asking for your scalp. That's a hounding, right?
Well, yeah, but they weren't trans activists. They were other peers in philosophy. Kathleen Stock didn't write about trans or gender before this. She was an academic philosopher who wrote about film and cultural ideas. She wasn't a person she didn't train in any kind of gender studies.
And I don't think she was claiming to either, for that matter.
No, but why would she be? So why would it be appropriate for her to speak on that?
But Stephanie, just to bring up onto that point, I mean, there is no doubt that Dr. Stock was given a hard time, regardless of where it came from. A hard time it was.
I think Frida makes the point for all female academics here, actually, because if you have a view that gender identity makes you a woman and you believe in gender identity ideology, then this doesn't happen to you. There's no case where a woman who has those beliefs is hounded out of university. What happened to Kathleen Stock is happening to women throughout academia. Women who daren't speak out to say that they believe that women are human females and that those rights based on that should be protected. And that is not an anti-trans view. That is a view that is protecting the existing rights of women. And it's just certain existing rights and protections that are very, very important for women, and trying to have the debate and have the discussion so that we can work out a way to balance everybody's rights, which is what we should be doing in a democratic society that believes in the freedom of speech, and particularly in academia.
Frida.
Well, this is not a freedom of speech issue. We know Kathleen Stock, and I know you as a campaigner have been platformed by some very powerful lobby groups. You're talking about the IEA. These are people that are coming out of Tufton Street. They're not like street level activists. We are, as a group, trans people, only speaking from the street. We don't have the backing of the back rooms of Westminster. Do you know what I mean? And with respect to you, the things that you're standing for is actually conversion therapy. You believe that trans ideology is causing children to be harmed when it isn't. All children want to do is to be listened to. And if a child said to a teacher, "Oh, I might be trans, or I might be gay, or I might be exploring ideas of gender," the worst thing you can do to that child is say, "You're wrong." Because when you do that, they go to someone else for advice, and you can never guarantee the person they're going to is going to have their best interests at heart.
Stephanie,
now,
is that a fair point, Stephanie?
I have never, ever said that, and I do not support conversion therapy.
But you said gender ideology, and gender ideology doesn't exist.
I'm questioning the idea that when a child believes that they're the opposite sex, that we should say that they're right. We should support children, absolutely. There are lots of ways.
Well, that's not the impression I get from what I've read about you, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
What you read about me will be saying that I'm a transphobic bigot.
Well, if it's you that's written it, if it's you that's actually written it.
Anybody who talks reasonably on these issues, if they don't fully support the idea of gender identity, is called a Nazi or a bigot or a transphobe. I'm used to it.
There's quite a lot of that, Frida, isn't there, online? I see a lot of people attacking. I'm not suggesting you do, Frida. I know you don't, but I am seeing people who bat for the same opinion as you do, that it takes nothing to gravitate and play the Godwin's Law card, and up it comes Hitler, Eva Braun, those kind of names get thrown around very casually because somebody has a different view.
And women have been physically attacked. I mean, just for holding these views. And getting back to, this is an issue of academic freedom. And getting back to Kathleen Stock, she is a philosopher. And if we cannot have a philosophical discussion about what it means to be a woman in the university, then we're lost. We must be able to have those debates and discuss them.
I absolutely agree with that.
With respect for each other. And, to see this happening yet again, I throw up my hands in despair at the state of students today who cannot hear an argument that goes against what they believe.
If I could just respond to that.
Go, Frida.
I want to have that debate. I would love for Kathleen Stock to have been here today because I've read her book And I've gone through it with a fine-tooth comb. And I would love to put every single point in that book to her and have a reasonable debate about what that means.
But why do the Oxford LGBTQ plus society not want her there, though, Frida? That's disturbing.
Because they're an Oxford LGBTQ society, and they know the history, and they know the things that Kathleen Stock has said in public, and they disagree with them.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? Well, so they disagree with her, so they don't want her to turn up because they disagree with them.
No, but she's not. But that is a political.
That's deplatforming. That's
no, it's not. No. They may want to deplatform her from that particular conversation, but she's not deplatformed anywhere else.
But that's not the point here. Nobody's suggesting she's eradicated from life, but she is clearly struggling in certain places to have her voice heard because people want to cancel her.
Yeah, when you use words like eradicated, I would never use a word like that. I've watched endless hours on YouTube of Kathleen Stock talking to other academics. There's no shortage of Kathleen Stock talking. There are hundreds of hours of Kathleen Stock talking, right? She doesn't need...
It's not about that, is it? It's about students here not wanting to hear Kathleen Stock talk at their university.
Imagine if you were a trans student at Oxford University and somebody told you that one of the most overfunded and prominent anti-trans activists was coming to your university, you'd want to make a stand against that. It's as simple as that. It doesn't
go to the debate then. You go to the debate and you make your points known, don't you?
But you've got to understand that the balance of power is not in the trans people's favour.
It's not a balance of power, is it? I mean, it's not really when people are losing their jobs because they don't hold a certain view.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to have that because nobody has ever lost a job for having a certain view. What they've lost jobs for is bullying people in the workplace.
Well, when people write something on...
I guarantee that there would be female students and probably male students as well who would love to go along and see Kathleen Stock speak.
Well, sure, I would.
These will be students themselves who have not dared to say that they support Kathleen Stock's views because they also will be tarred with the same brush that they will be called transphobic, and that's the balance of power. That is the reality of the balance of power. That nobody who's speaking for your side of the debate is afraid to speak out. It's only the people,
that's completely upside
women,
down. I'm
who dare
afraid
not speak out on this issue. Look at the research that Laura Favreau did. Now she's taking City University in a legal challenge at the moment because her research into attitudes towards this issue in universities, which was a very, very interesting report, was effectively banned. And you don't get that on your side. That does not happen. So the message always is we cannot talk about our side, if you like, our side's point of view.
Your side is the dominant side of the culture. We live in a misogynistic, very patriarchal culture, and this is why people like Kathleen Stock are promoted by the
patriarchal. That's an interesting.
Are you calling me misogynistic and patriarchal?
Yes, I am. Yeah, because
I'm a woman.
No, but you can still be a woman and misogynistic. Anyone can be misogynistic. The point I'm making is that the point that we are fighting from is not the point of power. If this was a seesaw, you'd be up here and I'd be down there.
No, but is that not just a way that you've redefined the terms of the debate, Frida, that you've looked at it on a power issue in order to advance? But, perhaps you're sensing maybe you've lost the dressing room on some of these points.
Well, okay.
The new way around defining it is to talk about power.
No, because if you think about it this way, think about media power. How many in the Daily Mail, in the Express, in the Times, in the Guardian? How many positive articles do you see about trans people?
I think they're more interested in talking about the arguments that.
But how do they frame those debates?
Well, it depends on which story you're reading, I guess.
So if all the stories are about trans rapist, trans prisoner, trans
But they are stories
terrorist.
in themselves, aren't they? They are stories that if a bloke suddenly says halfway through a court case, I'm a woman, then I think that does a couple of things. Firstly, we don't believe him. And secondly, it makes people question what is going on in this gender ideology world of ours. Nobody has debated trans issues for, I've done this job for 20 odd years, never even discussed it, never came up, nothing remarkable, blah, 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 blah. No one even considered anything. You know, when Nadia won Big Brother, that point was hardly even mentioned. And yet here we are today with daily stories that haven't come because of transphobes. They've come because we've got too many blokes with beards and penises suddenly jumping up saying, I'm a woman.
Do you think that's a realistic notion?
Yes.
I think what the press is doing now, and it's taken a long time because for years there weren't any stories at all about the real issues. Like the press didn't dare go into this area.
I agree
and now
with that.
we are seeing a more balanced coverage, but it's by no means it's not
balanced.
anti-trans.
Okay,
it's more balanced than it used to be.
Just very briefly, because we are short of time. Can I just ask Frida, Kathleen? We did ask Kathleen Stock to come on the programme. She wasn't available. If there was one question you would put to her, Frida, what would it be?
Well, I'd like to ask Kathleen Stock why, if this is a free speech argument for her, why she shies away from coming on this programme. Or, I mean, I know she's been in the media quite a lot, but if you're going to have this debate, you have to have it with trans people. And I've been on Talk TV a few times now, and I'm starting to think, am I the only trans person that is going to make that move? You know, because I mean, I don't know what it is, but I mean, maybe I'm just gobby and I don't care too much about being seen on TV.
No, we spoke to India Willoughby a couple of weeks back on a similar point.
But my point is that because trans people are generally very shy. And when they see all this kind of stuff going on in the media, they become kind of traumatised by it.
I get that.
And you've got to understand that there are real people at the heart of this debate. It's not about a philosophical question. It's about real people's human lives.
All right, Frida, thank you. On that point, Frida Wallace, host of the Gender Nebulous podcast, who's a trans woman. Stephanie, I do apologise, we weren't able to get a final comment in there. Stephanie Davies-Arai, who's the founder and director of